Have you ever wondered where money comes from? And no, it's not the government, and it's also not your employer. If you've ever wondered why everyone around you seems to be manifesting abundant amounts of wealth and you are not, or maybe you've been trying to for a while but just not seeing the wealth you desire, this is the perfect episode for you. Regardless of where your relationship is with money right now, whether you run screaming away from bills or you have an abundant, thriving relationship with money, we are going to dive into how to reframe your money mindset to attract abundant amounts of it, and my personal story of how I went from being a struggling single mom on food stamps with no more than $1,000 in my savings at one time to six figures in just 8 months, and now surpassing multi-6 figures before my first year in business just by focusing on my money mindset. And I'm sharing all of the tips, tricks, and resources in this episode. Let's dive in. I'm your host, Tiffany Chung, your go-to for all things marketing, mindset, and manifestation. I grew my online business from 0 to beyond 6 figures in 8 months. My purpose is to empower women to step into the highest, most aligned versions of themselves. If you are ready to take charge of your life, learn how to design a wildly successful business, and leave limiting beliefs behind, you've come to the right place. You will learn the actionable tips and step-by-step strategies on money, manifestation, and social media. It's time to step into your role as boss, to raise your vibration and tap into your unlimited potential today. Welcome to the Social Reset Podcast. Welcome back to the Social Reset Podcast. So excited that you are here today. We are going to be talking all about money and resetting the way that you view, attract, and see and feel about money, because this is so important. As much as we don't always necessarily go into business solely for the reason of making money, we do it to serve our community. We do it to bridge the gap. We are doing it to provide solutions. But money is also the oxygen of our business. So our business wouldn't be able to survive without attracting money. And for a lot of people, and a lot of the time, it does not exist or become successful over a certain limit without a mindset that is positive and abundant around money and success and business. And because so many of us grew up with this very lack mindset based on how we were raised, and our childhood, the way that our parents talked about money, reacted, or felt around money, certain energies that you might have picked up on around conversations of money or around paying bills. These are things that we then take into our subconscious. So then when we start our own businesses, we take on these ideologies, these beliefs, this mindset around money, and then therefore affects the way that we attract money. It then leads into our generational wealth or lack thereof, and what we pass down to our children or our family or the people around us. And I really want to be able to destigmatize money. It's so difficult for us to talk about money sometimes. People get uncomfortable and nervous and weird and private for so many reasons around money because of the way that they think about money. And I truly believe that if we have more financial education around money, have more conversations about saving money, investing money, being smart about your money, the more we will be able to start eliminating debt, as well as helping people be able to manage their money in a way that is successful and efficient for them specifically. Because again, this is going to look really different across the board. So having more conversations around this and talking to your friends about money, and the fact that we've got so many money and wealth coaches now is really beautiful. So let's dive in. The first thing I want to cover is, what is money? Where does money come from? So I'm going to say this a lot throughout this episode. Money is an energy. Money is also, this is a relationship with money that you have to build over time. And money is a source. So it doesn't come from other people. It doesn't come from either if you're working for somebody else or working for a team, it doesn't come from your employer. It doesn't come from the government. It doesn't come from the bank. Money is an energy. And so depending on how you have been raised to kind of think about money, I want you to kind of sit with that for a second and think about what you've been taught about money. What are some things people around you have said about money? Have they said something along the lines of money is evil? Money is the source of, greed and evil in the world. Money is, people who want money are greedy. People who talk about money are greedy. And so there are so many things that we've been taught and conditioned over time to believe about money. And growing up, being around those conversations with your parents really help shape this, just because that's the environment that we're normally in at the time. That's normally the environment that we are subject to because we're young. We don't get that much control and choice over the people that we are surrounding ourselves with. But also with that same token, we are so impressionable at such a young age and we absorb everything around us. And that's something that we can't always necessarily control. But as you grow into an adult and as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, these are things that we have to work on reframing and being able to attract more abundant amounts of money and recognizing that money is a tool. Money is limitless and it really is focused on the way you feel around money. So money is an energy of exchange. It's a currency exchange. By holding a specific vibration around money, you can bring more money into your life. And with that said, if you hold a specific vibration, emotion around money, you can also block it from coming into your life. So because we weren't taught a lot about finances growing up in schools, very rarely by our parents, unless they also had that education, we tend to treat it like it's an enemy. It's like it's something that we want to, get away from, or something that whenever it shows up in your life, you're feeling all of this, anxiety and fearfulness. And so that even when you do start making really good amount of money, there are some people that are still in scarcity mode. So being aware of how you feel, your energy, your vibration around money is going to start attracting or blocking certain situations. So even if, say you're making $20,000, $30,000 on average, no matter how much money you make, you may still continue attracting certain situations that make you upset about your finances because you're not in that abundance mindset. You're not kind of soaking up in that gratitude and using the opportunities that you currently have. So you may be working really, really hard around money. You might find yourself overstretching yourself, overworking because you feel like you constantly don't have enough, when in reality, you are making good money because you don't see money as a friend, as a tool in your business. So this is something to be really, really aware of, is asking yourself, how do you feel around money, around bills? What are some things that you've said? What are some things that your parents have said? Growing up, my parents were both immigrants. They came to the United States from China. And so my parents both knew no English until they went to college. So you can imagine what that's like, especially for my dad, who was in the library, from the morning until the night, literally from the time it opened until the time it closed, brought around flashcards so he could teach himself how to read and write in English, and then eventually joining the workforce and climbing up the ladder in corporate America, facing a lot of discrimination, as well as just having a lot of broken English, not being able to communicate himself. And there were a lot of different social cues and cultural cues that he didn't pick up on because he didn't grow up in the United States. And so he faced a lot of racism. He faced a lot of oppression growing growing up. And so as a man, and he was the only one at the time working when my sister and I were really, really young, he felt like he constantly needed to work really, really hard and just work himself for hours and hours in order to prove himself and continue to, build that up. And so as a young kid, that's all I saw was him working really, really hard. And as a young kid, you don't associate that with like, oh, he's doing this for me. You want that quality time. And that's also all I knew about business and being successful, because he did end up being very, very successful. He did end up shifting his money mindset and mindset about the world, which I feel like he has a very abundant mindset right now. He's taught me so much about this. That's just why I feel very grateful and very privileged in this sense, even though I've done kind of my own research around this as well. But growing up, that's kind of all I saw. So in the very beginning of my business, I thought, oh my goodness, I have to hustle. I've got to work extremely hard. I have to overstretch myself, because another thing that I would hear my parents say is money is very, very hard to come by and it's very easy to spend. So if you are going into life with this phrase, with this mindset, with this belief that money is really hard to come by, but really easy to spend, you can imagine that you would work extremely, extremely hard and then continue to not see any numbers increase in your bank account or in your savings account. So for a long time, this was me. I was working 2 to 3 jobs as a young single mom, putting myself through college and providing for my young daughter, and feeling like, oh my goodness, I am never going to save up enough money to buy a house. I am going to live paycheck to paycheck for the rest of my life. And that was my conditioning. That was my belief, because that was something that I continued to hold on to. Money is really hard to come by, very easy to spend. So I didn't have, education around my spending limits, around where I should invest, how should I invest, and all of those things. And that was the mindset that ended up kind of continuing on. So be very careful about what you're choosing to believe and the people that you're also surrounding yourself with, because this is going to bleed into your reality, into your actions, into what you invest in, etc. It's going to affect all of that. So let's circle back to the way that we view money. I love this analogy, and you may have heard it before because I feel like it's pretty popular, but a lot of people like to say money is just a tool, right? It's similar to a knife. So this knife can cook you this beautiful homemade meal for you and your family. Maybe it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas, and you have created this beautiful dinner using this knife to celebrate with your loved ones, right? So that's a beautiful result of this knife. Also, a knife can be used to stab or hurt or seriously injure somebody, depending on the intent behind it. So the knife wasn't the one that necessarily cooked the meal. The person in the kitchen or couple of people in the kitchen were the ones that used this knife to cook this meal. Right? So say if it was the father that cooked this Thanksgiving meal, nobody is going to say, oh my goodness, this knife did such an amazing job. They're going to look to the dad and say, hey, you did an amazing job with dinner. Good job. Similarly to if somebody used a knife to hurt somebody or stab somebody, they're not going to say, oh my God, what did this knife do? We need to put this knife into and be judged by the jury. No, they're going to say this person, because it's the intent behind it. But money itself is neutral. Money itself doesn't do anything. So I truly believe that when good people, when good women, because my audience is mainly women, understand and are educated around money, know what to do with it, you are able to support communities, marginalized communities that need help, that need financial resources, that it creates more opportunity. When you make more money, you're able to open up jobs. Like I'm building my team this year, and I am being able to kind of be responsible for their livelihood, which is a really big responsibility, but it's also creating dream jobs for these women, these powerful women that I'm bringing onto my team. And if some of them are mothers or working at home mothers, I'm being able to offer an opportunity where they can work at home and be with their children, which is such a dream for some people, right? And so the more money that you have, and with the money that I've been able to abundantly attract over this last almost year, almost my first year in business, coming up in April in 2021, I've been able to finally have the resources to donate to the organizations, to the charities, to the communities that I 100% love and support, such as communities of color, the Black community, the LGBTQIA plus community, among so many others, right? So these are passionate causes that I'm able to actively support because I now have the resources to do so. And that's why I believe that when good people make good money, the vibration of the world as a whole, the conscious collective rises. We are able to uplift one another. You're able to open up more space and more opportunity. And because I've been able to surpass $200,000 just within the first year of my business, I am able to give my daughter a better life, going from a struggling single mom to being able to support her and give her the things that she needs so that we don't have to be in this lack mindset, so that I can continue to shift that mindset first, be really careful about the way that I speak about money around her, and be able to attract bigger opportunities. Ever since my daughter started going to school, she was always a part of a financial subsidy program through California. And she always had at least a majority, whether it's like 90% or 80% of her tuition when she was going to a private school, and then any after school care program afterwards, because sometimes their pickup time is at noon or at 1, especially when they're really young. And I've always been working several jobs and not able to pick her up at noon or 1 because I'm not done until hours later, right? So the caseworker for her case actually gave me a call the last week, and it was time for the annual recertification to send in my pay stubs and how much money I was making sure that I'm still within that minimum maximum rate that they had for low income families. And we do this every year. And since I started my business after the recertification last year, and I totally forgot that this was even coming up at all, she was telling me about the recertification, what I need to send in. And I told her, I was like, hey, so I actually started my own business, and so I'm self-employed, and I'm not sure what your cutoff is for the annual income that a household makes, because it's just me and my daughter. It's a 2-person household. And she was like, oh, sure, no worries. And she was like, well, if you tell me how much you're making monthly, I will be able to let you know. And I told her that I'm making an average of $30,000 a month, and this is still continuing to increase. And she was like, wait, hold up. A month? And I was like, yes, a month. And because last time we spoke, I think I was averaging barely $2,000 a month from my 9 to 5 because I was still working for an employer. I was still working my 9 to 5 last year. And she was like, she just stopped dead in her tracks. She was like, oh my goodness, that is amazing. She was like, congratulations, your business is doing really well. And she was just so proud to see that I had gone from 100% needing that support, needing that financial assistance and help, which is their goal, the goal of the organization, to help them and help mothers and fathers be able to, support their children in getting an education while they continue growing abundantly in their finances so that they don't need that assistance anymore. And I was so proud. She was really proud. I got off the phone and just cried because I'm super emotional. But it was so beautiful to be able to see myself go from this very, very lack mindset and be able to manifest my current financial situation and be able to work myself out of that and be in the situation where I am in right now. And I want to be able to share that because it is so possible for you as well. It's not just a story I'm sharing where my audience can go, well, that's really good for you, Tiffany, but that's not going to happen for me. Even if you're still working a 9 to 5, even if you're still working full time, or if it's something that is more part-time and you're growing your side business that you want eventually to become your full-time opportunity, trust me, everybody started at zero. Everybody started at $0, 0 followers, 0 sales, 0 clients, 0 programs. Everything was at 0. But as long as you're able to nurture your relationship with money and start reframing what you've been taught about money, everything can change for you, I promise. And I know a lot of people look at goal setting and manifestation, and they're looking at their current possibilities. They're looking at their current circumstance where, okay, well, if I do this and I do that and I use what I have here, then maybe I can get here. And it's very limited. I want you to look beyond that, and I want you to think about possibility. Because when you think about possibility, there are no limitations. There's no like you start here and you end here, or this is the cap of how much you can make, or this is how much you can bring in monthly. If you look at possibility and you recognize that truly anything is possible, you can attract any situation, and you can also get out of any situation that is no longer serving you, that is very lacking, that is very scarcity. You will be able to attract the abundance that was meant for you all along. And sometimes we do need to shift around and let go of certain people and places and things and spaces in order to make room for that abundant opportunity to come our way. Okay, so a couple of actionable things I really want you to do is write out, you can type this up or you can physically write it on a piece of paper, write out all of the things that you were taught about money, as well as things that you still believe or you still tell yourself around money. Maybe some emotions that come up when you are thinking about money, when you're paying bills. I used to get this dread and anxiety leading up to the first of every single month because I knew I had to pay rent. And there were several months where I just didn't have enough in my bank account. And it would cause me this, I would literally physically start to sweat when I would think about it. I would get so anxious and just so fearful. And of course, I wasn't able to hold on to money. Of course, I didn't have more than $1,000 in my savings at the same time. Of course, I wasn't attracting, more wealth and more of that abundance into my life because of the way that I felt around money. Money's going to look at that and be like, ooh, I am not attracted to that. I don't want to be anywhere near that. But once you're able to sit down, track your finances, actually look at it, actually look at what's coming in, what's going out, I promise the numbers will continue to increase. And as long as you're also working on your mindset, releasing that scarcity, releasing that lack, creating more of that abundance, more of that abundant mindset, more abundant words that you're using in your vocabulary, in your communication, the more money is going to want to go, ooh, I like that. I want to hang out over there. I want to hang out with this person. And really building, fostering, nurturing that relationship with money is going to be so powerful for you. So once you write all of those things down about what you've been taught about money, what you have been told about money, what you're currently believing about money, I want you to write out on another sheet of paper. You can even do this, kind of split a line down the middle and have what you believe on one side and then how you're going to reframe it on the right side. And I want you to sit down, write out, and reframe some affirmations that you want to use around money and how you want to see money from now moving forward. So for example, because I want to give you some tangibles, if your parents always told you that they were broke, that luxury items were things that only other people could afford, that your family was never lucky around finances, or maybe it was something along the lines of money doesn't grow on trees. That is something that we will never be able to afford. These are all just examples so that you can kind of get some of your gears turning. Sometimes it's hard to sit down and think about it all in one place. Sometimes things come to you over time. So allow yourself some breaks, and as things come to you, continue to write them down, jot them down so that you can reframe them. And then on the other side of the paper, I want you to write down, okay, so if you were told money doesn't grow on trees, your affirmation or your reframed mindset can be something along the lines of money flows easily and effortlessly to me. Doesn't that just give you the chills saying that out loud? And I can't tell you enough, and I can't repeat myself enough for those who have been following me for a while. Your thoughts truly, truly, truly affect and influence your actions. So whatever you think, it becomes a belief. The belief then influences your actions, your investments, the people that you spend time with, and that changes and affects and influences your whole entire life. So it starts truly with your thoughts. I'm going to share a couple of my affirmations, and I'll try to go through them pretty slowly so that you can write them down, but also feel free to pause this episode so that you can write these affirmations down. So the first one that I actually put on a little plant that I had when I first started my business. And for some reason, I was like, you know what? My first year in business is going to be $100,000. I had never seen $100,000 before. I had never even been around $100,000. I have not even saved up to 1/3 of $100,000 before this statement. So I don't know where it came from, but I know that I'm ballsy. I knew that I was worthy of it. Hence, that was something that I was working towards. And guess what? The universe was like, 100,000? Let me double that and give that to you. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I know that this works when you work it. It works when you believe you are worth it. It works when you do not give up. Do not give up before the miracle happens. So a lot of manifestation, a lot of people say that manifestation doesn't work because they tried it for a week, a month, 2 months, and they're like, oh, this is too hard. I don't want to wait. This doesn't work, right? And so the universe is constantly working in our favor. You are constantly divinely guided. If something didn't manifest right away or it didn't manifest overnight, it doesn't mean that it's never coming your way. It just means that maybe right now wasn't the right time. Or maybe you needed a little bit more support. Maybe you needed to understand a couple of things first before you attracted this abundant amount of money, abundant amount of wealth, so that you knew what to do with it once you had it. I know that if I try to say, so for example, if my first manifestation for my first year in business wasn't $100,000, but it was say like $10 million, I know for sure I wouldn't know exactly what to do with it. Not that I'm not worthy of it, not that that's not possible, because anything is possible. Literally anything is possible, but I wouldn't know what to do with that amount of money. I don't have the team or the support in order to serve that many people, that many students going through my programs at this time. But $100,000 and now actually $200,000, I could do that. That was something I knew I was worthy of, and continuing to, be able to have this container and then be able to move on to the next level and then the next level and have those quantum leaps when I'm ready for them is what the universe is preparing me for. So just because something doesn't manifest right away or within the timeline that you want it to, doesn't mean that it's never going to come your way. Sometimes there are other things that need to be set in place in order for you to actively and respectfully manage that manifestation. So here are my favorite affirmations. I welcome an unlimited supply of money into my life. I am a money magnet. Money cannot stay away from me. Money creates a positive impact in my life. I attract limitless wealth. I attract money and prosperity with ease. Money is my friend. I am rich in health, wealth, love, and happiness. I am so grateful for the money I have right now. I have a positive, abundant attitude and mindset towards money. If you are constantly saying phrases like, I am so broke, or I have no money in my bank account, or my savings account is looking really, really scarce, you can start reframing those phrases to say things like, my bank account is open and ready to receive. I welcome abundance amounts of wealth into my savings account. And instead of saying things like, I can't afford that, you might be able to say something instead like, that investment is just not aligned with me during this time. And slowly, gradually, you will be able to stay away from phrases like, I'm so broke, I have no money, etc. I don't even like saying those words out loud, even though I know they're hypothetical, because your subconscious mind and the energy surrounding it is going to attract more of that lack mindset, more of that brokenness, more of that lack, more of that scarcity. So being really careful about how you use your words, because words are so powerful. Again, your thoughts are going to affect your beliefs and affect your mindset. That's going to be really important. Also, when you're investing, so say you're investing in a coach that is $10,000 and the investment for that container is $10,000. Set that intention that once you press pay, that $10,000 is going to come back to you $100,000. So knowing that this coach is aligned with you, this is someone that you want to work with, this is someone that's going to help reframe so much of your business or your mindset and is going to take you to that next level. It's going to be that mindset of wealthy now or wealthy later. Wealthy now is holding on to that money currently. Wealthy later is going, okay, I know I'm going to be $10,000 out, but this $10,000 I'm investing right now because I know when I'm done with this program, then it's going to come back to me in $100,000. And when I first started my business, I had this little Post-it on a plant that I had on my desk that said, jump head first into your biggest fears. And I had a $sign and then $100,000 written on that Post-it note. And I remember when I was moving into my new house, I took that and I just sat and cried because I was like, oh my goodness, this is insane. I never thought I would be able to manifest over $100,000 and be able to double that within, less than a year. And so that's really the power of knowing your worth, being able to manifest, being energetically aligned on that spiritual level, and really reframing your thoughts, words, actions, and where you're investing in order to show up as the version of yourself that already has everything she wants. I'm going to repeat that. Showing up as the version of yourself, acting, thinking, investing, showing up as that version that already has everything that she wants. So in the very beginning of my business, when I first invested my first $4,000 into an 8-week program with actually a money coach, funnily enough, I was like, okay, what would the 6-figure version of Tiffany do? What would the version of Tiffany that wants 10K months do? And as soon as I pulled the trigger, as soon as I said yes and paid the $4,000 in full, I hit my $10,000 month the week after. There's something crazy that happens when you say yes to the universe's nudges, when you say yes to intuitive nudges, and you are going, all right, you know what? I'm going to trust you. I'm going to say yes. The universe rewards you so much for that. And so it was such a beautiful thing to see. And then I know that afterwards, I continued to grow abundantly. My months were going from 10K to 20 to 25K to 30 to 35K. And it was continuing to flourish every single month because I set that intention. So some of my favorite books and podcasts that I want to recommend before I wrap up. I love Manifestation Babe. Her podcast and her book is amazing around money, manifestation. James Wedmore of the Mind Your Business podcast is amazing when it comes to applying spirituality into your business and energy and talking about money, reframing the way that we think about money. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is an amazing resource resource and book. You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero honestly changed my entire money mindset when I first started my business. So if you want to start with a book, start with You Are a Badass at Making Money. It is a green cover and it's honestly very actionable. She's got questions after every chapter, and you best believe I've got pages upon pages where I was really writing this out and doing the work and doing the reframing and doing it over and over and over, because that's how bad I wanted this. That's how bad I knew that I was worthy of this. So some action items before I let you go. Ask yourself, what were you taught about money growing up? And what do you still believe now? Are there behaviors around money that may be blocking abundant amounts of money to come into your life? What can you do to reframe those behaviors? I also want you to be patient with yourself during this process, because this isn't an overnight thing. This is something you're going to have to train like a muscle over and over again. So be patient with yourself and give yourself grace. But this is going to be really powerful work, especially as an entrepreneur. Last question I want to ask you is, what affirmations can you create around positive money mindset? So this can be really simple in the fact of like, what were you taught and how is it not serving you, especially if it was negative? And then just create the opposite. I listed a bunch of different affirmations earlier in this episode that you can absolutely take and write out. I had Post-it notes all over my house, in my bedroom, in my living room that said $100,000 all over it. So I was continuing to see it. I was continuing to repeat it over and over and over. And it truly manifested in such a beautiful way. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. If this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at tiffanychung.co. I truly appreciate interacting with every one of you. Catch you all on the next one.